I'm Chanel Scott, the queen of relationship talk.
I'm Josh Powell, two-time NBA champion.
I've journeyed from trauma to healing.
From the NBA to family, I've learned what really matters.
We've come together to unlock the secrets of successful relationships.
One conversation at a time.
One conversation at a time. Welcome to Relationships Matter, the podcast. My name is Chanel Scott.
And I am Josh Powell.
And we have amazing guests, Tray and Ayesha Chaney, here with us today.
Yeah.
Now, you guys know Tray from The Wire. Y'all know that. If y'all don't know nothing. Now, he's done more work since then, but we was, you left an impression.
Yeah.
There was an impression left, So today, you guys know that the premise of the show is relationships matter. So I want to start off by just asking you guys, how did you meet? Go ahead and give us
We met in Washington, D.C., which is where we're originally from back in 2002.
Okay.
I'm from Forestville, Maryland. My wife is from Southeast Washington, D.C. And we met at an event at a club called VIP. It was a very popular club in D.C. And nightlife, just out. And this was actually my first time being able to, get in the club. I had just turned 21.
Okay.
So, and being as though that my career had just started with The Wire, my first time at the club was a VIP experience. It's like, oh, you the dude from The Wire. Come on, whoever you with, come in. So we in there, we partying. This beautiful woman walks past me with this wrap on her head, this black dress, which was Ayesha.
Wow.
So she walks past and she, we caught each other's eyes. She stopped. She's like, yeah, you are you the guy on The Wire? I think in The Wire was probably like around the third or fourth episode. It was very early on, but they had, aired it already where if you were hip to it, you were seeing it. But like I said, fairly new show.
Right.
But she asked, I'm like, I'm on The Wire. I play Poot and I'm an actor and we just started, it was like a conversation, like a very short conversation, but when she was about to walk away, I grabbed her arm gently, not in no forceful
Not aggressively.
manner. Not aggressive. But I just grabbed her arm and correct me if I'm wrong. I know men are not supposed to ask women off the rip how old they are, right? But I'm like, I think I was like, how old are you? I mean, like I said, I was 21. She said, I'm 27. So I said, and the first thing I said, do you mind talking to younger men? And I don't even remember what you said, but it was just like, whatever.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like we exchanged numbers.
Yes.
And I stopped right there. We exchanged numbers. And This was
back in 2002.
2002.
And the detail in that.
He remember.
Yeah, I remember those details now. She might give you her version.
What's your version?
It's the same version.
It's the same version? So y'all exchange numbers.
Yeah, so we exchanged numbers, and I'm going to bounce around a little bit.
That's fine.
I would pull disappearing acts.
Yeah.
I would disappear for a month.
Why?
He was young.
It was no apparent reason, but it was just,
He was feeling himself. He was on the show.
I had just got on the show and I was meeting everybody. I mean, different celebrities. I mean, but no, it was definitely nothing between me and Ayesha. It wasn't like I'm just disappearing for nothing. Because anytime I would see her, it was always like, hey, I want to kick it. Let's hang out. Let me come over your house. She had her own place. I ain't had my own place. She had her own place, her own car, job. I ain't had nothing. I was living with my mother and father in a basement. My mother, father, and my sister. I lived in a basement. I ain't had no car. I was just the guy from The Wire that would borrow my father's car to drive the set. But my wife had to me, I'm like, you got your own place, your own car. And I just always, it was a connection from the beginning. I can say that. When I met my wife in the club, it was a connection off the rip. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, a couple of little disappearing acts, and she would cuss me out and be like, where you been at?
And you said it didn't have anything to do with her, but it's good that you're saying that because people will personalize and internalize and make it about them.
Yeah, that's true.
When in fact, you was like, it had nothing to do with her.
No,
that's just where I was at the time.
Yeah, that's the space that I was in as a young man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, just think my first experience, I'm 21 and I'm on a show.
Yeah.
So I always tell like people this. I never experienced standing in a line. You know what I'm saying? I came out the gate The Wire was my first job as an actor. Yeah. So my experience on just being in the clubs, it was always like the VIP treatment because like I said, being on The Wire, an international show, my first job as an actor, that's what I experienced firsthand. So, but it brings me back to the point of the disappearing acts wasn't, like you said, it wasn't about because I had a problem with her or, you know, it just, I was just young and one thing I can say when we would communicate, it was always love. Like it was always like,
so what you would do, just disappear and then just one day be like, let me call Ayesha and see what she up to?
My first time calling him, the second time. The first time I called, he wasn't there. Second time I said, this is my last time calling. I'm not calling no more.
Yeah.
And then he answered.
Then I answered the phone.
So we talked that night to like
4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah. To almost the sun came.
We got on the phone at what, 10 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked to 4 or 5 in the morning, just conversation.
And I had to go to work.
And I love, I knew I loved a conversation, you know, we talked all night and she had to go to work and we would talk the next day. Anytime we talked, it was always like a great conversation, long conversation until we said, let's go out.
Yeah.
On a date, you know. Now our first date was at Cheesecake Factory. Okay. Yeah, we loved and we still love Cheesecake Factory because it was our first date, you know. Our first date over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What was different about her than maybe
than me dealing with whoever else, right? You know what was different about Ayesha was definitely her maturity. You know, I gotta say that because I was 21. This was like my maybe second time dealing with a woman a little older than me.
Is that was that your preference back then?
I think I gotta say, I have to say yeah, but no, I had never dealt with a woman more than 6 years older than me. And this was my first time dealing with a woman more than 6 years older than me. But what was different about Ayesha is she, in my eyes, she had everything together. And also I respected, you know, how not only was, you know, did she have her own place, her own car, but she was a mother. You know, our daughter Tina, I met our daughter Tina when Tina was 8 years old. So, you know, I respected that. I'm like, yeah, she doing all this single mother, you know what I'm saying? And working and she just had everything in my eyes together. I'm like, yeah. And me, I'm like, I don't got nothing together. I'm just a celebrity or whatever. I'm just doing whatever I want. But no, I always respected, you know, her thoughts on certain things that we would talk about. We would talk about a lot of deep stuff. I mean, even to this day, like I said, we speak about a lot of things, and I could learn a lot from her as well. I learned a lot from her even in the beginning of us talking and, you know, us coming up together and as far as coming up together in a relationship and learning each other, you know, still learning each other 20-something years later. And that's what I appreciated about Ayesha.
So
No, but there was so many things I wanted to ask. One of the things, you know, from the standpoint, I guess it's a 2-part question because you already had a child.
Yeah.
So what went into the decision of allowing, right, another person to be in that space? Because I know that space is sacred.
It is.
You know what I mean? So what went into that decision? And then my question for you, King, would be, you now taking on that type of role.
Yeah.
Right? So just some of the things I was just literally thinking about.
Well, partly was from his household. He's from a 2-parent household. You know, I had met his mom, his dad, his sister.
My whole family.
At the time, yeah, his aunt was living there.
Very family oriented.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about it. So about him. And so that's what made me open up a little more for him to, you know, be able to come in to our space. So
yeah. I just wanted to, you know, piggyback off of that. Like Ayesha said, my upbringing, I came up in a 2-parent household. It was always my mom, my dad, and my sister.
And mine was the opposite.
Hers was totally opposite.
Totally.
You know, how she came up.
Would that have been, and I didn't mean to cut you off, would that have affected the decision if, for example, like that was one of the things you noticed, but would that have affected your decision if the household, if the structure wasn't the same, you think?
A little.
Yeah,
it would have. It would have.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask.
No,
that's strong.
That's real, because,
Yeah.
you know, me coming up and always seeing my father work. My father just retired a couple of years ago from FedEx after 35, 40 years.
And seeing his father with his mother.
Yeah. And the way my father, how he is to this day with my mother, and the way my mother is with my father, I seen the example. You know, I watched the example. They've been married going on 42, 43 years now. It was, like I said, it was always mom, dad, and my sister. My sister's 4 years younger than me, Ayesha Chaney, and we like twins, you know, even though she's 4 years younger than me. But I came up just around all family. All of my friends to this day, they consider family. They can go over my parents' house without me even being there. So that's how I came up. And saying, you know, asking her the question in reference to would that have changed things, I think that it probably would have, if I would have just been, you know, just out here, just whatever. Because getting a little personal, you know, her past relationships or whatever she had went through, we you know, we spoke about that, and it's totally different from me, you know.
I know for me, like, you know, if I could when I look back at other relationships, like paying attention to that family structure, I feel like a lot of us missed the mark.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you judge the person based on that too.
That's true.
Out of fairness.
That's true.
But I like what you said, because it was like, well, what intrigues you about him? You immediately went to, well, I saw his family. And I think that's a big part of a lot of times in the decision making.
And you know, a lot of people, when you date them, they don't let you meet their family.
That's true.
Which is kind of weird.
The first
time. But that's a sign of what you gonna get.
Yeah.
The first time
we like, wait a minute.
The first time I invited you over, probably after, you know, hadn't talked to you in a while, she came to my house when my house was every night my house used to just be my mom, my dad, the music is up, we having drinks, and you know, just she came into my home like this with Tina, our daughter, you know, so they got it at the same time. Like, this is what I do. I live in the basement, but everybody's over here every day. So this is what we, you know, bringing Ayesha and Tina into my space with what I'm used to. That helped a lot as well. You know what I'm saying?
But I have to ask, with the age difference though.
Yeah.
Like, what was different aside from the family dynamic? Because that is important. But in terms of attraction, what was it about him? Because there was a 6-year difference. What stood out about him and his personality, or what you saw in over against what you'd experienced in your previous relationship? What was the major difference?
Well, Tray was older in maturity versus his age. So I guess that was the difference. I mean, I've always dated older guys, but the maturity level wasn't, you know, older. A lot of times they still act young, even though they're older.
Because at that age, I mean, I guess the older you get, then the age really, it kind of just fades out. But at that particular age, he was 21.
21.
You know what I'm saying? He just turned 21, but there was still something that stood out, you know, about him.
He was really mature for, you know, for his age. And I learned that talking to him, and I'm like, oh, wow. He's not as, you know, as young as his age. So that's how we connected.
We connected. You know,
Right.
it was a connection, and even Ayesha being 6 years older than me, I didn't look at age. You know, we love the same. Yeah, we
At
love
that age, yeah.
right. We
yes.
love the same music. We love the same things.
Yeah.
We do the same things. I can't. Yeah, that one word, connection. It was a real connection from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up on something else that you said too, and when you spoke about, because you mentioned that she had basically her life was together, right?
Yeah.
And in a sense,
Generally,
even though you're having success, but to most people, it's like, bro, still living at home with his mom, with his dad.
Right.
But I think it's beautiful. So like for you, like to overlook that,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, so to speak, like to give a word to somebody, right? That's probably in that situation. Because now we're in the age of bosses. And everybody, you know what I mean? And it's like if somebody's in this type of situation, you overlook that for whatever your reasoning was. I just want you to kind of talk about that.
I always say, like, don't block your blessings. Because you don't know who your person is.
Right. Yeah.
You looking at the outside, or just the physical stuff, but that could be your person, and you might pass up that person and end up with the wrong person, because you was looking at the wrong things.
Yeah.
How did you balance the new relationship? Because you had an 8-year-old daughter, and then her dad. Like, how did you fit all those pieces, like with the co-parenting thing? What did that look like?
I was a single mother.
Single.
Single,
okay.
Meaning with a capital S. Okay. Meaning he was non-existent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that wasn't.
So you had to do the co-parenting.
So even for me, because that's something that I would have had to. That's something that fortunately I didn't have to deal with that. Because he and this is not to bad talk anybody, but for him never to be in her life, regardless, or in their life, regardless of whatever circumstances that he might feel, he wasn't around. And I'm, when I first met Martina, our daughter, she was 8 years old. Martina's 30 now,
Wow.
So just the experience with our granddaughter, Morocco. So just, I had always said, man, I never date a woman with kids, and I fell in love with Ayesha. I fell in love with Tina. And it was like, oh, okay. And being a part of that journey with Ayesha raising Tina, as her father, regardless of the circumstances, it's been a beautiful journey to see her from 8 years old to now see her now as a mother. And we grandparents, our granddaughter's 3 years old, so. And I'm not going to say everything was super smooth, with me and Tina. You know what I'm saying? Because I had to understand this even now as the years went on. Tina, she biological father, she still was hurt. She still was hurt, even though they might have never seen each other for 15 years.
Right.
But I had to understand, well, it's still something with, a child, male or female, but especially the female.
Yeah.
It's like my father was just never in my life. So when we would, if we would get into disagreements or something, certain things that had to be corrected, we got to talk this out. We got to figure out how we going to get past it. And we've been fortunate enough to get past certain things, and just having her as my daughter, she's been calling me dad since we met. You know what I'm saying? Since me and Ayesha
got
married and we together. And so I'm like, you know what? I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
We did it together.
Right.
But me as the father figure and the man in the house, I'm doing something.
How do you handle like that emotional roller coaster? Because I'm sure that has to be tough, right? From the standpoint of there's so many different emotions in this situation, right? You allowing him to come in, you know what I mean? The daughter now adjusting, but then the daughter still dealing with and then you being able to trust, right? Because y'all are building.
Yeah.
You're coming in because, you're now turning into a father. There's so much to unpack in that.
Definitely wasn't easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And literally, it's just, like I said, over 20-something years later, it's just getting like, okay, this is what it is. It's not so much to unpack no more now, because Tina's 30. I want to say from age maybe 13. Her teenage years to maybe like 20, 21. Her teenage years to when she became an adult. That's when emotions and stuff had to unpack, and we had to go through certain things. And man, I'm gonna tell you, the main key for how we dealt with it was the communication, laying everything out on the table. Everything has to be laid out on the table.
Like when she asked, or did y'all come to her with stuff, or you waited till she asked? When you say laying stuff on the table.
Well, laying stuff on the table could mean just getting in an argument or something. Because Tina was like,
She was a very
mature 8-year-old. Yeah. Because it was always her and her mom. No man around, it was just her and her mom.
And she get it from being with her mother.
Get it from her, yeah. So it was always like, it was never nothing where I had to come ask her anything. She is say it.
She's gonna speak her mind.
And it was never nothing where she had to come ask me anything. I say it. If you need to do something, you need to do something. And then if she had come back at me, then we got to go back and forth. She got to get in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? We're not really taking sides, but the respect of me as her husband, as Tina's father, the only father that she knows.
The man of the house.
That took care, that takes care of her. Even to this day. I mean, that's my daughter. She's 30 years old.
You say our daughter.
Yeah, I don't even care. Whatever she needs, she get.
How did you go about supporting? The reason why I'm so interested in this is because so many of us, are in this, parenting situation.
I feel you.
And healthy, no matter what it looks like, is what's of most importance. But just in your situation, how do you go about supporting him to now be that father figure? You know what I mean? Because that is something that no matter the platform, the people, the whatever, I haven't come across that one, like people to be able to properly discuss that part of it, because that's important.
And at such a young age. Yeah.
Right.
Because at 21, you still a child to a certain, you still, young.
Right.
Yeah, certain things, but I tried to sit back. Once we got married, I tried to sit back and let him lead. Yeah. Let him lead, let him be the man of the house, and let him handle a lot of those situations on his own. A lot of times I didn't get in the middle of it. And that sounds like my situation.
Yeah,
and they worked it out.
Yeah, it always got worked out. Yeah. And one thing I have to say, like I said, a lot of my ways as a man too, it does come from my father, my grandfather, saying how they stepped up, how they take care of, their kids. And my grandfather was somebody, rest in peace to him. He passed away in 2016, but he was somebody that would take in somebody else's child. And you know what I'm saying? Like I picked up on, it's a lot of stuff that I may have picked up on that I didn't even realize when it came to, when me and Ayesha got married. I had Tina as my daughter. This was before we had our son, Malachi. You know what I'm saying? Who's 17 now. And but I just picked up on certain things, man, and really just said, I'm here to step up as a responsible man, a responsible Black man. And regardless of the circumstances with her biological father, you never have to come out of your mouth and call me a stepfather. I ain't even going to accept that title. I'm your father. You know what I'm saying? To this day.
No, that's beautiful. I just truly appreciate, to be able to hear that type of support. What does it look like when, anything deal with your son that's different? Because that's, you both created that, right? But in regards to her, when she did have questions, how did y'all go about handling the information in regards to dad or in regards to other feelings of upbringing or just different? Because, naturally kids are going to
ask questions.
When they get to a certain point, it's like, all right, like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying?
I think me and my daughter just actually recently had that conversation.
Really?
They did.
To where she's like, well, I don't understand. Like, where was he? What happened?
She asks this question like that now.
And like, where did he go? Where did he disappear to? And just recently, like, it was around her birthday. Birthday's in April. I had to sit down and have a conversation with her because he's now come back around and want to build a relationship with her.
Wow. Why now?
That's my question.
I had an issue with that.
I had to sit back and I had to let him handle that situation because she's an adult.
Yeah.
I'm not in that situation anymore, but I did sit down and have a conversation with her.
Yeah.
And I had to tell her what happened, why, and and break it down to her.
And this is something that I can definitely speak on. When her biological father did decide to come back around at this age, I'm still not agreeing with that. That I'm still kind of like, unpacking that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just, being honest on the podcast right now. I didn't show up to her birthday because of that.
Was he there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I had an issue with that. I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't have a choice at 21 to say, well, that's your daughter. I ain't raising her. She ain't my daughter. I'm just dealing with my wife and my son. I ain't had that choice. I've raised her all the way up until now. And then for you, or for her biological father to come back around and to be like, oh yeah, now I'm like, you looking at what I poured into.
Right.
How beautiful she look, how she got money, whatever she need from me and her mother, she got. And now you want to come back around and you daddy?
How was that conversation with him?
I didn't have a conversation with him.
Okay.
Yeah,
she wanted them to have a conversation.
She wanted us to have a conversation, but that wasn't working with me.
Yeah,
because I'm
not
like,
yet. Not yet.
Yeah, the conversation. I'm not ready for that yet because my thing was, what am I actually going to talk to you about?
Right.
What am I going to talk to you about without, me raising my voice or having animosity or not or disliking you because of in the scenario is this. I just couldn't understand how a man with a daughter could just be like, okay, a new man comes into the picture. I come into the picture and you never have no communication with your child's mother or your daughter ever. You don't know what type of man I am. I could have been terrible. You know what I'm saying? I could have been somebody out here doing harmful things to kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But so that was my take on it. So the conversation with me and him, it hasn't happened. I don't know when it'll happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
but I'm sure she asked, what is she saying? What is she saying?
She was trying to understand why you don't want to. He came back around in my life, and I'm like, Tina, like this doesn't.
Yeah, but she's the child trying to
process it,
and she wants it to be
me and him.
She wants it to be one big
family
happy situation.
Happy family.
She really does. She really does.
She does. I mean, because that's her personality. That's the type of person she is.
Yes.
So,
do you think that forgiveness and grace?
I knew you. I'm trying, man. I'm trying my best to. I'm trying my best to get to that point.
But was he having issues back then? What was his situation?
No, I don't know.
What's the story? Okay.
I don't know. He was in her life for like 3, maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Because he didn't meet her till she was like 2.
He just disappeared.
And then
he disappeared.
He got locked up, and then he got out when she was like 8.
8. And that was. That was it. And I even asked him.
I don't know.
I asked him, years ago. I'll never forget. I was just like, what? I think it was leading up to when she was getting ready to graduate.
Her prom and graduation.
No. It was during the time. It was probably between the ages when she was between 8 and 10. I think he had came to a birthday party or something. And I think I had a conversation with him like, well, what was it about Ayesha? Because just being real, I'm like, all right, I'm married to Ayesha, and Tina, this is your, and he told me it was nothing with her. It was nothing. He just wasn't ready for a child. So when you get
another child,
because he had another son already. But when you get those type of answers, it's like,
and we're actually very close to her brother.
Her brother, yeah.
His first child.
Yeah, he comes around to all of our functions and all of that. But so that's what takes me back to the whole forgiveness and grace and I'm like, well, what am I going to speak to you about? About how I raised Tina and you wasn't there?
Or maybe you can take the time to ask some of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's nothing, to your point, there's nothing that he can ask you about in regards to that.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
But as a buffer, because you had a household, as a buffer, it's like, all right, big dog, you want to have this conversation? Then help me understand how and what happened with this.
I think he wants to have the conversation.
Right.
And I might just be a little, I'm like, nah, you can't even get around. You ain't even going to be in my presence. Nah. But like I said, eventually that might happen.
I hope it does.
I feel you.
You know
a lot of people feel today. A lot of people want that to happen, man. And I gotta get all the way in that space because I don't know.
I feel like you in it. You want me to tell you why?
Why?
Because 20-something years ago, you made a decision.
Yeah.
So you already took that on 20-something years ago, not even realizing that you was taking that on.
Right. I feel you. No, I feel you 100%.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you doing, like, it's really a beautiful thing. That, and I got to take my hats off to both of y'all because it's like there's so many different, I know me, my own personal, just wishing you can get that support.
Wow.
Like consistently for one, for two, like from a genuine place, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, like, I'm sure that if he was available, then it'll be like, y'all could all do this thing, right? Because that's the energy that I'm getting. It's not like it ain't we ain't tripping, but you came into the situation like, all right, bet. Like, he ain't here, I got you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there are other situations where people are present and want to be there. And then you getting this when you shouldn't get this. And then you hear stories like this. Like, for example, like mine in that room, I wish they could come in here and hear that. You feel me? Because you never really understand perspective is everything. And then you got somebody that wishes they knew. And now all of a sudden it's like 20-something years later, here we are trying to figure out this. But then, hey, I'm dad because I've been on deck. Like, what we doing?
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at you. I get it. Like, I get it. And I get your stance on it. You know what I'm saying? But I also think it's beautiful too because she like, yo, that's his thing. And and that's her, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's y'all's daughter, but technically that's you know what I'm saying? But she's just like, yo, this my husband. This is how we moving. You don't get that often.
Yeah.
You know, you feel what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, and I just think that that's really, a beautiful thing. And that speaks to the connection in the club. That speaks to a lot of those things because it's like this, this came together. But, I really hope and pray that whenever the time is right.
Yeah, man.
But for sure, because I think you'll see her take that next wherever she's at in her life, you know what I'm saying? Something that's good for her. I struggle. I know I got a lot of different situations. Man, I could talk y'all head off about a lot of things on my end, but just thinking about, having a conversation with my old man a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying? My dad been in and out. And it ain't been the healthiest. But I remember just telling him, like, bro, it's nothing that you can give me as a man, but it'll be nice to have a man to go to. If you just wanted to lean on somebody for a second. I shouldn't have to go to my partners, you know what I'm saying? Or wait till I get to church every Saturday in order to have certain conversations. But me and my dad, bro, that relationship is dead. I love brother to death. I don't wish nothing on him. But I tried to have the conversation. But at least I made the effort. Now, what you do with that, you do with it.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? But I just think it's just something that we can just go on past and just keep it. Yeah, just keep it moving. So I really do pray. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's what's up, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So you guys have been together for how many years?
22.
22 years.
We've been married going on 19.
So that's a long time.
So we've been
What are the key ingredients to having a long-lasting relationship?
Man, I'm telling you, we talk about this all the time, and it's communication. And when I say communication, I'm talking about if I have an issue with something, I have to tell her.
Yeah.
I have to tell her like immediately. If I got an issue now, I gotta be like, this is what's happening. If she has an issue with me, she has to tell me. Because in 2010, and it's the first time we sharing this, but in 2010, this was after we had been married for
6.
For going on, 6 years? No, we got married in 2002. So
that's how many years?
It was
8 years. Yeah, 2010.
We separated for 1 year in 2010.
Wow. Okay.
Because of communication. The business at the time, in me as a man, I can, put this on me. The business at the time just was not going good for me. But I wasn't focused on, okay, what's more important, this business or my wife and my kids? I was more focused on, this business is not working for me. So I'm not happy with myself. So I'm
just not happy.
It made me just not happy with nothing.
Right.
Which wasn't a way to look at things. You know what I'm saying? And I think that type of energy, bringing it in the household, it rubs off on her. So now we both not really communicating or sharing what the issue is.
Right.
So me in 2010 saying, I think I should leave. She said, all right,
okay,
I think you should too. And I left.
If that's what you feel.
And the crazy thing is, at the time we were living in an apartment, her apartment was here, and me and my sister had got an apartment here next door.
Wow.
So if her apartment was 4015,
I was so mad.
My apartment was 4013. So I would see her walk out of the house with my son.
Oh my God.
Josh, I'm not kidding. So I would see her walk out of the house with my son every morning.
That is the silliest
Hey, that'll get you back in the crib. Hey,
nah,
guess what? It did not.
We argued. We argued bad for like a year. Like,
that did not
why'd
work.
you let me leave? And she's like, well, why'd you leave your family? So that was the argument. Why'd you let me leave?
Every other day.
Why'd you tell me, yeah, you can leave? I wanted you to be like, no, don't leave. But yeah, it was.
What's crazy? You arguing from a place of what you saw growing up. And then she did the same thing from what she.
Yeah, because I grew up, I didn't have a father when I, growing up.
So it was just like,
oh, okay, all right, bye. I'm good.
Process that immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like.
That's what we doing?
Go ahead. I'm like, nah, like, it was that easy. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I'm going to pack my bag.
He was packing his stuff up.
And I didn't even know how to do that. I didn't know how to pack. You know what I'm saying? I ain't know how to be like, oh yeah, I'm about to pack and I'm about to get out of here. I've never seen this done. Like to this day, my father, my uncles, they like, yeah, you really did that back then. You packed and you stepped for a year. Next door. You know what I'm saying? And it was a constant, you probably would hear about my wife being out at places that we go to. She probably would hear about me being out.
I was going to say, how did y'all manage that with the apartments being right there?
Well, we wouldn't see each other.
I was just like this with my head up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we wouldn't. It was ugly. And then some nights, I'd be drinking. I'm like, yo, I'm ready to come home. She like,
he called talking crazy.
Like,
nope.
Yeah, I call and try to cuss her out and stuff. And it was bad. We would cuss each other out. But until, I'm telling you, that was a year. But then that year of me leaving, was the year that I became, and I want to say who I am now, the hustler that I am, and getting in tune with myself and understanding the more important things. Like I said, I was going through something where I didn't understand the downs of the business back then. I'm like, yeah, everything up, and then when everything go down, then my thinking switch, and I get to tripping like, man, I ain't nothing going right for me. But it's like, Tray, if you would have just, okay, this is what happens in this business. Your wife and your kids are the most important thing. You know what I'm saying? You know, talk things out with your wife. I wasn't doing that. You know, it was just, I had to understand a lot about myself. And I guess I can sort of say too, living with my sister, it was like, this is my own, I had my own place. You know what I'm saying? So it was like that for me. I just got a chance to really see what it was like not to be in a house every day with my wife. But then fast forward, after all of the smoke cleared and after all of the arguing, she called me one night. It was in April of 2011. I'll never forget. I know that I'm good with dates. So it was April of 2011, and she said she couldn't sleep. And my son at the time was at my apartment, me and my sister's apartment.
He still don't even know we were separated.
Thinks my son to this day, he's 17. He knows now, but he thought back then he had two places. He used to be happy, like, oh yeah, I'm going. I got two houses, you know, whatever, two apartments. So he was with me at the time, and she had called me in April 2011. She was like, I can't sleep. And I was like, oh, you know, I still, my wife, we always used to, we getting a divorce. Go sign the papers. We never signed papers, never got a divorce. So I walked next door and I'm like, what's going on? I brought some drinks over there, and I'm like, come on, let's take a drink. And then we was just sitting there. We was taking a couple shots or whatever. We was just talking. And I think the question came up, why did we separate? Right? Mm-hmm. We was like, why do we separate? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Right.
We couldn't answer the question.
Wow.
I said, never again. Never again. I don't care what's happening.
Let me ask you this, because I know, you know, your daughter went through that already.
Oh man.
So
no, it was bad.
That's what I was gonna ask.
It got bad. Yeah.
Do you feel like that kind of got in the way of
their relationship?
Your relationship.
At first, well, now that I think back, yeah. Leading up to that point,
because she was a senior in high school too.
Leading up to that point of being in teen, it's like, and then I left for a year.
Trigger.
Oh yeah,
major trigger.
She started calling me Tray.
Oh wow.
And I got into it with her. I'm like, if you ain't gonna call me dad, don't ever call me Tray. Call me nothing. Don't say nothing. Just be like, hey, that's it. It got crazy because I'm like, yeah, I left, but now I'm back. You know what I'm saying? But it did trigger her.
Find that spot.
It triggered her. It triggered her. And but that took a minute. It eventually all worked itself out. It worked itself out, and we that night I said, I'm never leaving again. I don't. And that's where the whole communication thing, when we first started talking about this, I was like, I need to know what's going on. Like, what is it? Something that I can fix? Is it something that I'm doing? Okay, I feel like you doing this. Well, no, I've talking it out. You know, not going to bed without. We would go a day in the house and not even say nothing to each other. And I used to be like, I can't believe, like, you know, but you know, now the communication for me, when you said what's the key, it's the communication, it's the honesty, it's the being upfront, it's the respect, it's always it's the consistently dating.
Okay.
We go out, we probably are after going on 19 years of marriage, we hang out all the time. We party hard when we party. We do whatever. We go out of town. I mean, it's almost like my
friend.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She's like, yeah, my best friend. It's like, oh yeah, I'm always looking for ways to blow her mind in a sense, in a good way. Like, what can I do? Let me surprise, because I like that. I love making my wife feel like she's appreciated. She wanted, you know. I'm constantly always affectionate with her. I'm always on her. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's where we at today in 2023.
What are some things, right? 20 plus years in.
Yeah.
What are some things that you both feel like even 20 plus years in that you could be better at, that you could work on?
Better at.
Because I think sometimes people have, they hit this, you know, they're coasting. They get to a certain point.
Yeah.
And it's just my perspective, but I feel like we're forever learning and growing.
Oh, yeah.
Until the day we're called home. You know what I mean? So if y'all could pick one thing, you know what I mean? What do you think it would be for you as a husband and as a father? And I would ask the same thing for you, Queen.
All right. What I think for me is being quicker to and I'm saying this from a recent thing. being quicker to say if it's something that she really, really wants to do, being quicker to be like, okay, all right, yeah, this does make sense. Let's do it. So I think being quicker to agree on certain things that do benefit and make sense for us. Because sometimes I might have a delay.
Why?
Just because,
if you know it's a good thing.
Well, no, I'm gonna give you a prime example. She rearranged our whole closet. My wife loves to build, design. She can take this right now and make a picture out of it. Like, she knows how to do everything, right? So if I'm in that space of, look, I don't feel like bringing all my clothes down and doing all this right now. I don't got time. If I could just be more like, you know what?
When you do have time.
Yeah, if I could just be like, yeah, this makes sense because my side of the closet is junky. You know, so if I could just be more quick to say, think better, you know, if I could think about it more and say, okay, this makes sense. Let's do it. Instead of giving her the runaround, maybe for giving her.
And he quick to do it. I'm like, yeah. He was doing his videos, his YouTube video. I said, why don't you put the ring light over here so you can see better instead of turning on the light up here?
I said, no.
No, I'm good.
No, I'm good. I got it already.
I go upstairs and come back down. Guess where the light at?
I did the ring light. So if I could be quicker to just be like,
is it a control thing?
Yep.
It's not really a control thing because I'm not a controlling person. I'm not a controlling person.
You don't like to be told what to do.
He don't.
Yeah, sometimes I don't. When something is working for me, and I'm like,
it's not working.
If I'm like, yo, this already working for me, well, half the stuff she says, it eventually works out for me. So I gotta, it could a little bit of control, you know.
You gotta take the long way or the. You gotta take the long way. Why you gotta take the long way?
Yeah, see, I be having her like,
Josh, that's
okay. Yeah. I be having her like, she be like, what? You don't want to do this?
I give you a better example of the long way.
Go ahead, spill it.
Getting ready to relocate.
Ooh.
You know, it takes you like literally like 6 months to prepare and get everything together. I mean, finding schools, homes, apartment, whatever it is.
Yes.
He still didn't pack up. This is like a month in when we get ready to leave. He still hadn't packed up nothing. None of his clothes, nothing. Yeah. I mean, I got stuff packed up in the dining room, boxes stacked.
She could pack a house up quick.
Nothing. Even a week before, that's when he started packing his clothes. And then I give it about 2 days before, then it finally hit him like, oh, we are leaving.
Yeah. That's another thing I want to touch on too.
Then he started helping, trying to, get stuff together. I'm just like,
when I spoke about being more like in agreeing with her a little bit more because of the benefits, that was the thing with moving. I was content with living in DC all my life, in DMV. When sometimes as men, we're like, yeah, we got everything under control. But when your wife or your significant other, your woman jump you out there like on some real man stuff, like, you know, you already traveling to Atlanta 3 months at a time. We still here in DC. When you come back to DC, there ain't too much going on with the field that you in, acting, music. We need to relocate. It hit me. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll just go back out there. I was content with living in DMV. She's the reason why we live here now and we're successful after 6.5 years. Had a crib built from the ground up 3 years ago. And I wasn't on that back 6 years ago. I was like, nah, I don't want to move.
So it's safe to say women knows best.
Mm-hmm. She knew. She had potential.
Lord.
She seen potential in me that I didn't see at myself at the time. She like, I know what you'll get out in Atlanta and do. I know you.
Now, as a father, please don't forget that.
Yeah.
What would be one thing
as a father?
Yeah, that you feel like at this point, you gotta...
Probably the same thing. Because when my kids say certain things, even my son and my daughter, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I got everything figured out. Hearing them more as a father, just hearing their thoughts on things and getting down to the bottom of whatever it is, instead of having that little piece of control that I have sometimes. Yeah.
Well, at least you can admit it.
Yeah, now I can admit it because you said it. Yeah, so I got a little bit of it, and I'm working on it. It's getting better.
What about you, Queen?
I guess allowing my son and him, to do more physically in the house. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That comes
because they might catch me in the house moving a flat screen off the wall and taking it.
That's just like with the closet. I'm like, but I love the closet now. It's amazing. I'll be showing it off. I did my side
first, and then he was like, I said, so we get ready to start your side, and he was like, nah, I'm good. So we just gonna have half a closet neat, and then the other side look crazy.
I said, nah, we could do it in a couple of weeks when I get back in town because I travel. And she like, no, it only takes a day to put this up. I can show you. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it right now.
You gotta spend more time convincing him.
No, because then I just go do it.
When she do it, and I see her, and I be like, I ain't gonna let her do this by herself. I know she ain't gonna be able to lift that. So I know eventually I'm gonna have to get thrown out there and say, okay, I gotta lift this up for her. Can you bring this upstairs? I'm like, all right. But I don't feel like it, but I'm gonna do
it. Well, guys, this was an amazing conversation. That's our show.
I appreciate it.
Tray and Ayesha Chaney. Relationships Matter, the podcast.
Relationships matter.